Looks like
Welcome everyone to today's session, the first week of our session. Is it the first or the second? No, this is the last week.
this is the first of the last week. Yes, you're correct.
For those who are joining us for the first time, hang in there, and for those who are joining us, who have been with us, let your experience be an inspiration for the others. And I'll give over to Casper to do the house rules and hand over to Dr. Host. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cabello. Welcome everybody to today's session. I don't think we're going to have so many rules for today because it's going to be an open discussion on the research. So I think the only main rule we're going to have is maybe the one about the no cameras. We ask everybody to please mute your cameras to save data and bandwidth. And I think we can have a fun session. And over to you, Dr. House.
Awesome. Yes, indeed. So thank you very much. I'll put the camera on, then you can see me. And yes, we are a smaller group, so it'll be great to have a conversation about the research part. I'm just going to give a brief introduction. Maybe if you're wondering where does this all fit in, I'm just going to share my screen and give an introduction to where robotics fits in. But the focus is the challenge. So this is what you do with the grades from grade 4 upwards. And last year, the theme was play, so replay, where we have movement. And so that was the project. And this year, the theme is about Cargo Connect. So the Cargo Connect theme. And the really cool thing about this competition is that the learners both have to build and program a robot. That's part of it. But they also have to apply their minds in doing research. Now, research skills are developed. So if you start with if you have a robotics team, if it's a new robotics team, you kind of go through the motions, you go through the steps with them, and then they get to a presentation and they get to a solution, and you as the coach then guide them. But the research skills are definitely learned. And so you will see that a second year and a third year robotics team actually understand what the process of research is all about. And so I'm going to share, as always, I'm going to share my screen. All right, so the rest of the team is just monitor the lobby, and whilst I just go, here we go. Let's just start my presentation. And
Okay.
then, there we go.
There we go.
All right. So, so what we did last time was I talked about the competitions, and I said specifically there are different competitions, but what we're focusing on is this first Lego League challenge for grades 4 to grade 10. So you have 10 learners, and on the one hand, they need to build this robot to complete as many missions as possible in 150 seconds, but they also need to do a project which needs to be innovative, linked to the theme. All right. And so one of the not okay things that you do is to send a team into a competition where they are not well prepared. All right. So the engineering and the programming and getting the missions understood, we've dealt with that. What we want to, and there's lots of resources and everything. What I want to focus on here is you as a coach, you've got to know your team, but so I'm just going to confirm this is the Cargo Connect theme. This is what the mat looks like. And there's a whole lot, but you'll see that there are 12 sessions. I'm going to show you now where these 12 sessions come from. But you basically have 4 weeks, 4 weeks, and 4 weeks. But whilst your part of your team is doing the robot and building the robot and programming the robot, the other part must be doing the project. Okay, so there's all the resources to build your robot and program your robot. Now we come to research. Okay, I'm just going to skip over this. This is our general information. We've got a robotics team. We've got a season which has launched. Now here we come to problem solving. And the question is, so what is the problem? All right. If you sit back and I'm going to show you in the book where the problem is defined. If you look at the problem, you think, okay, so what must I do about it? The missions that your robot needs to do should kind of give you some hints, okay, about what the Cargo Connect problems are all about, okay? And you can read it, you can analyze your missions for the robot, to build the robot, but you can also analyze it for the project. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing here now, and I'm going to just close this for a minute. I'm going to show you. So when you get the challenge, your rules for your robot and your program is explained in the rule book. Okay, so those are the robot rules. But each team, for each team, there are two books. The one is for the learners and the one is for the coach. Okay, so let's just look at the one. This is the it's called the engineering notebook, and this is what the learners get. And I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so you can read what it is. Okay, so inside, and this is on page, so this is what the book looks like. Let me just show you quickly. It's the engineering notebook, which the learners get, okay, and it explains, kind of puts it, you can go through the book and you get it all here, and you've got to read all this here. So there's the different, so the one is the core values, where you need to be able to work together. Then you've got a robot design, you've got the robot mission, and then part of everything you have to do, the team will identify a research problem, design a solution, create a model or prototype, share your ideas and collect feedback, and communicate. This is what we're going to do in the next 4 sessions. So I'm going to guide you through the process. What is important here is to say your team must prepare a 5-minute presentation. This is not because 5 minutes is a magical number. It's developing the skills of your learners that they are able to concisely present their research to a panel of experts. Okay, so what we're doing through the whole process is we are developing your skills of your members of your team. And by the end of Friday, the Friday session, I will exactly lay it out how your presentation should be. All right, so there's the journey of how you're going to do it. And then we come to the details of the innovation project. All right, so if you start here, it says, everyone depends on the transportation of goods, okay, stuff, for their daily need. As more demands are placed on transportation, we face challenges unless we find new ways or improve existing ways. So there's your innovation, okay? And it says here, there's the problem. How can you improve the transportation of products? Identify a specific problem within this theme that you want to solve. Then you create or improve a piece of equipment or technology or method to solve your problem. Okay, so that is the brief for what the problem is you need to solve. That's the research you need to do. Okay, so they've given you a lot of steps here. And so the one is identify a specific problem related to transport. I'm just check underneath here where there's another one. Research. I'm just going to push this up a little bit, then we can. Okay. Research your problem, design and create a new piece of technology, share your ideas, and create an effective presentation. Okay, so there are the steps. Those are the steps that you need to do. Let's just go down the next page and see whether they give you any more information. No, that's now robot design. So that is what our focus should be today. And we'll unpack this as we go forward. But, you know, with research, the most difficult part is to start. All right. And so we're going to do the start part. So the start part is identify a specific problem related to making transportation journey of products better. And for this discussion, we're going to pretend that I'm your coach and you are my robotics team. And we're going to use this. How can you improve the transportation of products? Identify a product to solve. Okay. This does not come easily. All right. So let's just pause this a minute. I'm assuming you can see my screen. Were you seeing my screen? Casper? Oh, Cabello, were you seeing my screen?
Not yet.
Okay, let's just try it again. Okay, can you see it now?
Something is coming through.
Okay, actually, sorry, in this previous 5 minutes of discussion, I assumed you could all see my screen. Okay. Can I continue?
Yes, please.
Okay. So in the book that you get with the challenge, it's called an engineering notebook, and the team gets all the details of the project. And the question is, how can you improve the transportation of products? Identify a specific problem within the theme. And then you create a piece of equipment or a method of transport that you're going to solve. All right. So there it's given you, that's the problem. Then it's given you all the steps. So there's step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. And we're going to work through each of these steps then to get to a solution. All right. So as I said just now, the most difficult part is to start. All right. So now we're going to open the, what are some of the problems of the transportation of goods? Let's start there. I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to open the floor to answers, questions and answers. What are some of the problems that are currently existing for the transportation of goods? Remember, you would have to do this with your team. So what are the things that are problematic? What do you think? Anybody? Yes, Christelle.
Good afternoon, everyone. As I was talking to my grade 6s on Thursday last week, we spoke about how fuel and the rising price of fuel is a very big problem because it makes transport very expensive. So I thought I wanted to add.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so the price of fuel, that's one of the problems, is the price. Okay, so fuel is going to go up, so the transportation of products is going to obviously be increased. Right, so we've got what are the other problems about the transport of goods? Anybody? Yes, Ms. Carsten. What is
Yes, Marianne. Hi, Dr.
Marianne. Yes.
The state of our roads.
The state of our roads. Have you traveled to Cape Town recently?
No, I'm flying down.
The state of our roads. That is a huge problem. Huge problem, and it's not becoming easier because all the trucks are on the road. Stunning. Okay, so the state of the roads, the price of the fuel. What else? What else are the problems associated with the transportation of our goods? Anybody else want to put up their hand? Anybody? Any ideas? If you were to ask my daughter what the problem is, she would say it takes too long to deliver an ice cream to the house because the ice cream melts. So that is about timing. It takes too long. All right. Anything else? Any other problems?
One other problem, Dr. House, can be the size of the luggage.
Size,
Sometimes,
yes.
Yeah, sometimes you have to transport, big objects that are not, quite good for our road.
Yes.
So the size of the objects as well. Yeah.
The size, absolutely. The trucks are just too huge. And if you try and overtake 3 trucks on a highway, it's just life-threatening. Absolutely. So it's too large. There's too much on the roads. Correct. Okay, what else is the problems? So you see how we are now, we're working through what are the problems. And if you work with your learners, you'll probably find them having all these cool ideas about what the problems are. And you need to encourage them to kind of work through it. So what is the problem of the goods that you have? So you will sit with them and we will work through these problems that you have with not people, but goods. All right. So the other problem is with fresh produce. It takes too long. It takes too long, and so then you lose half your harvest. What else would be a problem of cargo? Apart from the fact that we don't have trains, I would love to have more trains on the road, but maybe we can think of a different way of transporting goods not on the road, but as a hybrid for trains. Anybody got any ideas? No? Anybody? Right. Okay, so we're all busy thinking. And if you work with the learners, they also have a lot of time to think. So they will become unstuck thinking, oh, we can't think of anything. Okay. Then you go, I'm going to share again in the team meeting guide. I'm just going to show you the book that they get with their, okay. So in the team meeting guide booklet, they've got all the missions set out. Where we go. Sorry. I'm just going to go towards, oh, no, we can't. Have I not put it in this document? Sorry, it's the wrong document. Okay, let me just quickly go onto here. Okay, so it gives you all the missions. And now because I'm looking for it, why can I not find it? Okay, let's just stay at the top here. Okay, if you look at the, sorry, this is not really demo card. Robot design. Word, why can I not find it? Okay, I'm giving up. I'm going to stop sharing. On the robot table, you're given a whole list of the missions. Okay, so then what you would then do is interrupt your discussion and say, well, let's look at the mat. Is it anything that you can think of that is relevant? Okay, so one of the missions is the train tracks that are broken. That could be a real problem. Then there is the transport of 2 large items. That's the one of the items here on the robot. Then there on the mat as well, there's an aeroplane unloading and loading an aeroplane. Maybe that takes too long. Maybe that's an issue. There's the problem of changing power from diesel to solar. So maybe that is a problem that you can solve. Then there is, I'm trying to think of all the missions on the mat. Okay, so then what you do is you take your team through all the models on the table, and you can say, well, is it relevant to us? How does that impact us? I always say we cannot solve the problems of the Eskimos in Iceland because the learners need to be able to identify it. Okay. However, they can identify it with the fact that they've got to wait. Maybe they have to wait too long to get items. Maybe there's a different way of transporting items. Maybe there's a different way of doing anything related to the transport of goods. Okay, so now I'm going to ask you, I'll give you one example, is if you need medical supplies and you have to wait for a truck to come by road from Durban, that is a problem. It takes too long. All right. So what has the solution been recently? They've got little drones that deliver medical supplies to your doorstep. All right. So that is already an existing solution. But then there might be a different solution that your learners can think up. Okay. So I'm going to just pause that for a minute and say, how then, in your scenario, in your community, where are there the transport of goods that is taking too much time? Anybody? Anyone? Anybody want to put their hand up? Where is it that the learners are waiting too long for things, or it's costing too much for items to be delivered? Anybody got any ideas? Oh, we need a think tank now. You see, it's very easy for you as a teacher to give the answer to the teams, but you don't want that. It's not, it'll be very easy for me to give you a whole lot of answers. You want to encourage your learners to think. Okay, so one way is to look at the mat and look at the missions are and think, how is that applicable to our community? All right. Another way would be to say, let's go and read the newspapers. Okay. Is there anything in the newspapers that says there's a problem with how we transport goods? Okay. Well, given all these potholes, you would actually want all the trucks to get off the road. All right. So maybe we need to invent a smaller truck. A smaller truck, but then we've got more vehicles on the road. So that's also not a solution. All right. Anything else? We're all thinking of how to transport goods in a, so we've got to, remember it's getting expensive. So maybe we need to have a non-petrol version. Not on the roads because our roads are really damaged. not large trucks, so small. You see where we're going? So smaller trucks, maybe. Anybody? How do we transport goods quicker with less cost? Anybody? Remember, you have to sit with your learners and they've got to come up with a really cool idea. Anybody? No. Oh, we are all very quiet. It's supposed to be a discussion session. I need some discussion here, please. What are the conversations you're having with your teams about Cargo Connect? And we're inland, so we can't really go by water, can we now? We can't transport stuff by water because we don't have much water in this country. But we have air. Can we transport stuff by air? Can we transport stuff by maybe a conveyor belt? Or can we transport items by cable car? Can we transport goods maybe overnight? Marianne, you want to add? Yes.
I'm thinking that we have the Gautrain, a bullet train. So why can't we use that between Durban and Johannesburg and Cape Town? I mean, it can be there in a couple of hours. I don't know how cost effective it is, but I mean, that is another way of transportation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm just going to hook onto this idea. So maybe you need to get your team to come up with a proposal of how to, at least on all these bullet trains that we have, and maybe you can always say their long-term plan is to extend it into all provinces, but to have a fast-moving train and maybe just at least one compartment for essentials. So instead of having a huge truck with lots of stuff damaging the road, maybe they just send, there's a solution. There's a proposal. They can think that's awesome. Yes. So instead of having large containers of lots of items, maybe smaller parcels on the railway line. And the bullet trains are successful. So yeah, excellent. Very good idea. Okay. So see, there we already got, it's not a new idea, it's an innovative idea, because we're taking something that's existing and we are thinking, well, maybe that's a good idea. Yes, that's stunning. I'll give you an example as well. A couple of years ago, the theme was about food, and my team was most perturbed that the food rotted in the shopping, in the malls, in the shops. So they wanted a quick way. If a little piggy is going to give his life for your food, then it must be quickly delivered to the person who ordered it. And so that team, who I gratefully have now all matriculated and they are at varsity already, they developed a whole plan with groceries developed by helicopter. And I must say it was 2011, 2012. So it was like 10 years ago, but a really innovative idea where you let learners kind of think this through. David, your hand is up. Yes.
Yes, Dr. Rose. In my situation here, there's a lot of countries which are planted by the community here, and then they tend to be transported through N2 to Richards Bay. And in that case, there's a lot of trucks which are always on the road, transporting these tree logs to Richards Bay. And I think maybe there can be a way of cutting down on this transportation.
I think that's awesome. Awesome. Yes. Make David, I don't want to put ideas into your children's heads, but I'm really excited because one, they can think it applies to our community. Number two, they can actually come up with an idea, all right, and then present it to some truck drivers or present it to some tree farmers to say, this is our idea. Exciting stuff. Yes, yes. And now I'm thinking we can link Marianne's idea with David's idea, but don't put the idea in their heads. Let them think about it. If you can think of a tree train, all right. So the train only takes logs to probably to Richards Bay, then probably, or so you have a train that's run just to take trees and wood backwards and forwards. Woo! There we go. All right. Okay, David, your team needs to do the Cargo Connect challenge.
Yeah, really.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, and you see now, and I'm really grateful we've got to this point, because now you get your learners taking ownership of saying, we see the problem. Okay, so David, your community of learners, they see there's a problem with too much wood on the roads. Okay, Marianne, your learners see that there's a train system working, but not for goods, only for people. So maybe we need to extend that. You as a coach need to keep guiding your learners without, I also want to say, without stifling them, without giving them the answers. You kind of, okay, let's discuss this. And research, that's why research takes a long time. All right. They need to be able to, like, that will work, maybe that will work. Then they need to draw diagrams. Then they need, so this is whole part of what we're going to be discussing on the next 3 sessions, today and then the next Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Okay, so number 1 is identifying the problem. And I will tell you now, let them write it down, okay? And initially it's going to be all fuzzy and they're not going to quickly get it. But what you want, and tell you what the goal is for you as a coach, we need to have a single sentence as the problem, okay? And that's not going to come like this. It's sitting with your learners and thinking, okay, so now what actually is the problem? What are we actually dealing with? Are we dealing with, to get, say, let's do the trees. We want a safe way to get the trees to their destination. We want to, or is the focus, the problem is that there are too many trucks on the road. Okay, so we want to reduce the number of trucks on the road. So that is a noble problem. All right, we want to reduce the number of trucks on the road. Okay. Marianne, maybe your problem is you want to get smaller parcels of goods to their destinations quicker. There's an option. There's also an option. So you're going to present so the overall problem is the transportation of goods. All right. So what is your problem? Then they discuss all that, and then they come up with a whole lot of ideas. You can even Google. So if you go and Google transportation goods problems, or transportation problems challenges, or transportation goods costs, or something like that, then you can find on kind of on a wider scale, what are the problems, what are the things that are hindering the effective and efficient transportation of goods. Okay, and then from there you might see some really cool ideas, and oh, this is good and this is good. But what you're trying to do as the coach with your team is to say, how do we bring it down to something that we as a community can identify with? All right. You probably know, so the learners with where David is, David, you're about the wood, and maybe sugarcane is also an issue. Maybe the kids in Durban know about sugarcane. Maybe the children in the Western Cape are plagued with the trucks full of grapes going to, maybe there's a different way of transporting grapes from the vineyard to the wine press before it makes wine. So maybe they can deal with that transport. Then there is the transport of groceries to rural towns. Maybe there's a better way, instead of having this huge truck arriving once a month, maybe there's a different way of getting the goods there. But in all cases, what you're doing is you want to do the transport of is a problem because, okay, so that's what we're aiming for. The overall, it's wide, okay, and it's I want you as a coach to realize that it's not necessarily the solving of all the world's problems. The learners need to identify what problem they're solving, and then they are going to come up with, and we're going to explore that tomorrow, they're going to come up with a solution, with their solution. Please, you as a coach, please do not put the words into their mouths. Hopefully on Thursday, or maybe Friday, maybe Friday, I will get some project judges into the session as well. So they will kind of unpack and explain what they are looking for in a presentation. You want the learners to identify a real problem in the community, something that they can talk about and something that they can share with experts. Remember, they're going to identify the problem. Tomorrow we'll do with existing solutions and how we can modify solutions. They do need to speak to experts. They cannot suck it out their thumbs and say, this is a problem. So they will need to go and talk to maybe a traffic engineer or a road engineer or somebody from the market. Maybe I can also get some experts in. Let me see what I can do. Get it there. You need to be, you can't just imagine the problem. This is not about imagining the problem. The learners need to develop the skills to talk to experts. So it would be maybe get them to go to the local shop or cafe or Pick and Pay or Checkers or whatever and say, what are the issues that you're facing and how can we address the problem of one particular product? Okay. That's a start. You can also go very specific. Say, okay, I'm talking about the transport of pet food. I'm talking about the transport of medical supplies. I'm talking about the delivery of fresh produce. What are the issues about bringing fresh produce? The worst for me is if all the stuff arrives and then the cold storage has failed, and maybe there's something you can do about cold storage instead of bringing it over land. Maybe we have a bullet train, a fresh supply bullet train. Can you imagine? You see, and this is where the learners are like, oh, that's a cool idea. Why didn't we think of that? All right. Maybe we need helicopters dropping fresh food supplies. Instead of going on the road, maybe every town gets a basket of fresh produce delivered immediately. Okay. Maybe that'll be cheaper. And so then you can go for calculations to say, okay, so we calculated what it'll cost to go by road for this truck, and now we're going to calculate it what it'll cost by helicopter. And so then you'll get a helicopter pilot to help you work out the costs. Or do you just, every person going to the town anyway just takes a trailer of produce? Maybe that's cheaper because then you don't have these huge trucks on the road. Maybe you have trailers. All right. So I'm talking a lot, but with a lot of ideas, and I'm kind of hoping you get the idea that the research is, this is this broader thing of products that need to be transported. We said in the beginning there are issues, so the large volume, so the big trucks, the time it takes, the costs, the road infrastructure is really getting battered. Really, 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 our roads are really taking a knock with all these big trucks. We have a non-existent railway system. If it was up to me, I would build railway lines. I love trains. I think that's the most efficient, effective method of transport. We can't send by boat because we're inland, so that doesn't count. Drones might suckle with heavy stuff, but maybe there's smaller packages that can be delivered. Helicopters might be an option because they can take off and land. So there are all these transport options, and there are existing solutions. What your team needs to do is say, how do we adapt something that exists, or how do we modify something that exists to deal with a problem? Okay, so your first step is to say, what is the problem that we are solving? And I would really urge you to say, it must be the transport of the product by the, and what's the problem? It takes too long, it takes too expensive, and so then so that's the first part. The second part is to say, what are all the existing solutions? and what are the issues with these existing solutions. So yes, you can send everything by air, but we don't have an airport, and you can't send it by rail because we don't have a railway station. So you have to say the existing solutions just don't cut it for us in this community because, all right. And then I'm going to pause here now, because once you've got existing solutions, we'll do then tomorrow, how do we then modify it to make our own solution? All right, so I'm going to stop now. Anybody got anything to add? Anybody started the research process with the learners? Anybody started with the research process? Anybody? Everybody's very quiet today. So while I'm waiting for somebody to put up their hand, part of the fun of research. Oh, there we go. Hi, Christelle. Yes.
Hi, Dr. Gys. We actually only spoke about a few ideas. I asked the kids to think of a few ideas. And so we don't have one idea yet, or one problem that we want to tackle. So we'll probably do that this week. But yeah, I was really impressed with a few ideas that we had. One of my kids was very adamant about solar energy, for instance, to use solar energy. So yeah, we have a few ideas that we want to explore.
So that's addressing the cost of transport of stuff.
Yes, to address the cost.
Yes, that's awesome. And also lots of Koki pens and lots of big papers, and they can draw and they can give their ideas. Also important, so you can listen to everybody's ideas, because usually when you listen to one idea, then another one gives an idea, and then you modify it a little bit, and then you modify it a little bit. I've got some examples here, and I'll show you tomorrow how an idea kind of modified and modified and modified, and then you get the whole team's buy-in, and that's what we want. The last thing you want is a team going into a judging session and they say, well, my mother gave me the research idea and this is her solution, and then the team don't take ownership, because then everybody steps back. What you want is a whole team to say, this is our idea, this is our problem, and this is how we solved it. You know, we as coaches always want it to be perfect, and we're developing skills, we're developing research skills of our learners. Okay, that is the focus. And so you need to give each child an option to kind of contribute to the idea. Sometimes you think the ideas might be a little bit whack. I do think so. But you never know where their thinking goes. And so you need to encourage them. Maybe, and I hear, Christelle, you're busy discussing it still, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 sessions. So if you see in your team meeting guide, it's all divided up your times, because research doesn't just happen like this. Okay, so you build a little bit, you discuss a little bit, then you look at all the hints, because there's a whole lot of, what do they call them, sparks. Yeah, research sparks. It's got to spark some idea. And even if you say, well, do you think this is applicable? And even for the learners just to engage with the thought and say, no, that's not applicable. That is part of their thinking process. All right. If you give a solution, you propose a concept and say, no, that's not going to help this problem. Okay, so we cannot deliver furniture with a drone. Okay, so why not? Well, because the drones are not strong enough, and there are winds, and so no, that's not. But in the process, you're getting the learners to think, so why is that not applicable? And why does that not work? And why is that not such a great idea? Don't shoot them down immediately and say, no, that's not going to work. That's a stupid idea. That's not what you want. You want to have an open discussion with your whole team, and then think, maybe that could work. Maybe that couldn't work. All right. And then maybe send them off, send them 2 by 2 to go and talk to their dad, or talk to the dad's friend, or talk to the guy. Maybe the transport of petrol is a problem. If you get these big trucks fully laden, that's a problem. It's a danger to have these big trucks on the road. So maybe there's an alternative way of doing that. Maybe there is something else that we can do. But then maybe go and talk, in this case, maybe go talk to, for animal products, maybe go talk to the vet. What is the problems? Maybe go talk to the bakery and say, so what are your problems by delivering fresh bread? I know a couple of years ago we had a guy, no, it was a lady, and she used to deliver fresh bread, which was such a cool idea, because in the morning at 10 o'clock, she would drive around the community and deliver just a fresh bread. And we had a bread box and we delivered fresh bread, and it was amazing. And so why does that deal with a problem? Well, because at that time there were a lot of people at home and they each needed fresh bread. So instead of everybody getting into their car and going to the shop and buying a loaf of bread, they had one person in the community who just went around and delivered everybody's bread. So and it was fresh because it used to come in early in the morning. Yeah. All right. Anybody got any ideas of the transportation of goods? Remember, it could be food, non-food, perishable, non-perishable. So with food, it's always a time thing. Non-food things might not be such a time thing unless it's an emergency. So medical supplies is an emergency, needs to get delivered quickly. I'm trying to think what would be not so urgent. Yeah, I can't think. What is it? What is a non? And getting food to people is important instead of everybody going around. Yeah. Okay. Anybody got any other thoughts or thinks that's coming up? How do we start the conversation with our team of learners to say, how do we unpack the problem? And for this one, it's Cargo Connect. So it's about the transportation. So I'm going to show you again. Let me just quickly open this. I'll show you in my document. Here we go. Okay, here we go. No, it's this book. Right, here we go. So there's your whole innovation project. It says, so the whole spec for it is, how can you improve the transportation of products? Okay, identify a specific problem within this theme that you want to solve. Create or improve a piece of equipment or a method of transport to solve your specific problem. You see, it's all open for discussion. Okay, so what we've done now, all that we've done today is kind of get the ball rolling. So here's identify a specific problem related to making the transportation of products better. Okay, there are some research sparks, and you've got to think about, and so they've actually, let me just put here, they think about access, safety, efficiency, connections, product journeys, if you can improve any of that for the product or a particular product that you're investing. So already it's the transportation of a product. So you only need to take one product. How do you transport a product more effectively and more efficiently? All right. So that is today's focus. You can see the next one is then, and maybe that's for tomorrow what you can do. What solutions already exist? Okay. Are there experts who can help you? Think about the products that are transported in and out of your community. Research some of the journeys of the products. All right. So you can maybe go and ask in your community, how long does it take fresh produce to get to our community? How long does it take for milk to get to our community? How long does it take fresh bread to get to our community? Maybe there's a better way of doing it. Maybe if you have one person baking all the bread, but they bake the bread and they don't transport it immediately, maybe there's somebody that can get alongside the baker to say, I will transport the bread. Okay, so it's about letting our learners think. They need to consider, what is the product? Where must it go to? Where does it come from? What are the issues? Okay, and if I can say it, it's just amazing to watch your learners engaging with this. All right, engaging with how to transport stuff, how to make sure it's more effective, how to make sure it's more efficient. And I don't know how I'm going to, there we go. All right, stop sharing. Okay, so it's about discussion. I'm going to leave it at that. I want you to kind of go over it. It's about a discussion you have with your learners, and we want research skills, right? yes, they're going to upgrade their research skills. Yes, we're going, but this is the skills that you need to learn to, first of all, identify the problem. We want to get eventually, after lots of conversations, we want to get them to one conversation to say, it's a transportation of what, where, from where to where, and what's the problem. The problem is it's too expensive, it takes too long, there's a better way of doing it. It's unsafe. And those are the problems that you have. All right. If you want, you can look through newspapers, go and see what are the issues. Maybe a truck lost its load. The problem is the load is too large. There was a horrible incident where they were transporting animals. I think it was pigs. No, very unsafe, totally overloaded truck. Yeah, so that is unsafe. It's unsafe for everybody concerned, and it's cruel for the animals concerned. So maybe that is an issue that you can investigate. All right. Okay, so any last comments before we close the session? Anybody got any last thoughts about how do you identify the problem that your team is going to solve? And I'm happy to have this discussion again tomorrow. Kind of go through your discussions. How do you talk to your teams about identifying the problem? Sometimes you can kind of spiral down to one problem. Sometimes it takes a little while, especially if you have a new team. They're kind of going around in circles and circles and circles, but they will eventually come down to one concept, one product, the transportation of one product from there to the community, or maybe from the community to wherever it has to go to. I know that there's a project that's considering the transportation, I think it's tomatoes from the Northern Cape to Amsterdam, and they're trying to make sure that 100% of the tomatoes that get loaded, 100% get delivered. And so that is to reduce wastage. That is in and of itself a research problem to have. All right. If there are no further questions, nothing at all, are we all good? All right. Hopefully the session has helped, but we're going to continue this conversation tomorrow. We're going to definitely continue this conversation. How do you then identify a problem towards a project? You want to equip your learners with research skills that they understand what the problem is and how they're going to come to a solution. And then eventually I'll show you some presentation methods that your team can use to communicate their problem and their solution very clearly, that everybody understands what the problem and what the solutions are. Right. Okay. I see Happy Monday Tumelo has joined us. Tumelo, would you like to close the session?
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed today's session. And it's a very happy Monday. And thank you so much to the hosts and everyone for engaging with her. Without wasting time, see you all tomorrow. Thank you.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Stay well, and we'll see you tomorrow then. Okay. Bye-bye. I hope this has helped everybody. You're very welcome. You're very welcome.